Before the legend. Before the flying kicks. Before Hollywood. There was just a boy. A boy growing up in the bustling, chaotic streets of Hong Kong. His name? Bruce Lee. But back then, he was just Little Dragon. Bruce Lee was born on November 27, 1940, in San Francisco, California. Ironically, he was born in America, but he wouldn't grow up there, not yet. His father, Li Hoichen, was a renowned Cantonese opera star. His mother, Grace Ho, came from a well-off Eurasian family. But when Bruce was just a few months old, the family packed their bags and returned to Hong Kong. It was 1941. Now here's the twist: the day Bruce was born, a dragon hour, in a dragon year, the Chinese zodiac deemed him blessed, special. But fate? Fate had other plans. You see, when the Lees returned to Hong Kong, the city was falling into darkness. The Japanese invasion during World War II turned the once vibrant streets into a war zone. Food was scarce. Life was tough. Bruce was just a baby during those brutal years, but the trauma of that period left its imprint on his family. By the time the war ended, Hong Kong was reeling. But it was rebuilding too. And amid this rebirth, Bruce began to find his identity. He was a hyperactive child, full of energy, mischief, and curiosity. People say he was impossible to keep still. He danced. He boxed. He mimicked. He was always moving. It wasn't long before his father introduced him to the film world. That's right, Bruce Lee's first stage was a movie set. He made his film debut at just 3 months old. A baby cameo, sure, but by age 6, he was already delivering lines. Throughout his childhood and teen years, Bruce acted in over 20 Hong Kong films. He was becoming a child star, charismatic, natural, and effortlessly camera-ready. But don't let the fame fool you. Life outside the set? It was rough. Bruce grew up in a dense neighborhood in Kowloon. The streets were crowded, loud, full of rival cliques and teen gangs. By the time he was a teenager, Bruce was already getting into fights. Real fights. He wasn't just acting in action movies, he was living them. There's a story? Bruce once got into a scrap with the son of a triad gang leader. And let's just say, Bruce won. But his parents? They feared for his safety. So they made a decision. If Bruce was going to survive, he needed discipline. He needed guidance. He needed kung fu. At age 13, Bruce met the man who would change his life, Yip Man. A calm, wise Wing Chun master, Yip Man was a legend in the underground martial arts scene. But he was also selective. He didn't take just anyone. Bruce was half European, something that made some traditionalists hesitant. But Yip Man saw something in him. A spark. A hunger. Under Yip Man's guidance, Bruce began training in Wing Chun. Not the flashy movie stuff, real martial arts. Close combat. Precision. Focus. For the first time in his life, Bruce had structure. He had a path. But even with his training, Bruce was still wild. Still volatile. Still a fireball of teenage pride and fury. He danced cha-cha competitively. He boxed in school. He fought in alleyways and on rooftops. And once? He knocked out the reigning boxing champ in an inter-school tournament, with pure Wing Chun speed and instinct. But his rising reputation wasn't all good. His street fights were becoming too frequent. Too dangerous. One day, he beat up a boy so badly that the police were called. Bruce's parents were terrified. So once again, they made a decision that would shape history. They sent him away. Back to America. Back to where he was born. At 18, with just a few $100s in his pocket and a steamer ticket in his hand, Bruce boarded a ship to San Francisco. Alone. No fame. No movie sets. No backup. He was starting over. But that's the Bruce Lee the world doesn't always remember. We remember the man on the screen, the nunchuck-swinging icon. We remember the ripped physique, the screams, the lightning-fast kicks. But before all that? He was just a kid growing up in post-war Hong Kong. A kid who fought too much, danced too well, and refused to sit still. What most people miss is how Hong Kong shaped him. Its chaos toughened him. Its streets trained him. Its culture grounded him. And its challenges ignited him. He once said, "To hell with circumstances, I create opportunities." But maybe it was those very circumstances, poverty, violence, rejection, that built the fire inside him. And here's another untold piece. Bruce wasn't just training to fight. He was learning to think. He read philosophy. He studied the Tao. He questioned tradition, even as a teenager. He once argued with a kung fu elder over whether forms mattered more than function. Guess who was right? So when he arrived in America, he didn't just bring kicks. He brought ideas. And that's the real legacy of Bruce Lee's early life in Hong Kong. Not just fists. But philosophy. Not just movies. But movement. He left Hong Kong as a rebel, but he carried its spirit wherever he went. Every fight he won. Every style he created. Every mind he changed. It all started there. In the crowded, concrete jungles of Kowloon. Where a little boy named Bruce Lee learned to survive, before he learned to conquer. Because the truth is, the dragon wasn't born in a dojo. He was born in the streets. You see, people look at Bruce Lee and think he was born a legend. But no one becomes a legend without a war within. And Bruce's war started early, with himself. As a child actor, Bruce had fame before he had freedom. The cameras were always there, the expectations always high. Yet off camera? He was getting into trouble, again and again. It was like two worlds existed inside him, the charming performer and the street fighter. Let's talk about those streets for a moment. Kowloon in the 1950s wasn't for the faint-hearted. The narrow alleyways, the dense buildings stacked like Lego blocks, the noise, the heat, everything was fast, raw, and alive. And for Bruce, that chaos wasn't just outside. It was inside. He wasn't the biggest kid. But he was fast. Fast with his fists. Fast with his comebacks. Fast to anger. There were stories about Bruce getting into rooftop duels. That's right, rooftop fights, where martial artists would challenge each other after school to settle disputes or prove dominance. These weren't staged matches. There were no mats. Just fists, blood, pride, and concrete below. And Bruce? He won. Again and again. His style? It was evolving. It wasn't pure Wing Chun anymore. He was mixing what he learned from boxing, from street fights, from watching others. Even back then, Bruce was breaking the rules of traditional martial arts. He didn't care about forms unless they were useful. He didn't care about rituals unless they meant something. He cared about what worked. But being a rebellious thinker wasn't always appreciated. At one point, Bruce was asked to leave a martial arts school because some of the elders found out about his Eurasian heritage. That's right. Bruce wasn't fully Chinese. His mother was of German-Chinese descent. And in the tight-knit world of martial arts, some saw that as a reason to exclude him. Imagine that. Bruce Lee, the man who would one day unite East and West, was once told he wasn't Chinese enough to learn. But Bruce? He didn't break. He got better. He trained harder. He found new teachers, new ways, new angles. He studied every style he could access. That rejection? It didn't stop him. It defined him. This was the beginning of Bruce Lee the philosopher. The martial artist who believed no style was the best style. The one who believed in using no way as way, having no limitation as limitation. And his education wasn't just in martial arts. In high school, Bruce was a solid student, but his passion was beyond textbooks. He loved dance. Specifically, cha-cha. Yeah, the martial arts icon was also a dance champion. In 1958, Bruce won the Hong Kong Cha-Cha Championship. He kept a notebook with over 100 different steps written down. He approached dance the same way he approached fighting, with precision, creativity, and total obsession. But to Bruce, there was no contradiction. Martial arts was rhythm, movement, flow. He saw the link between the art of combat and the art of expression. And that's where Bruce's greatness begins to truly show. He wasn't just fighting for dominance. He was fighting for freedom. Freedom of thought. Freedom of movement. Freedom from labels, traditions, and boundaries. But there was still trouble. By the time he was 17, Bruce's street reputation was too big to ignore. Police were watching him. School officials warned his parents. Even some gang members were waiting for revenge. His father knew it. And he made a painful choice. Send Bruce away, or risk losing him forever. Bruce didn't want to leave. But deep down, he knew. If he stayed, he'd either end up in jail, or worse. So with nothing but a steamer ticket, some clothes, and maybe a few $100, Bruce boarded a ship to America. His mother gave him $100, all she could spare. His father? He gave Bruce his most valuable lesson. Your name is your shield. Keep it clean. Bruce didn't cry when the boat pulled away. But something inside him changed. He was 18. Leaving behind everything he knew. His family. His friends. His past. Even his name. Because in Hong Kong, he was Lee Junfan. In America? He would become Bruce Lee. But here's the thing, his early life in Hong Kong wasn't something he escaped. It was something he carried. Every punch he threw, every philosophy he wrote, every challenge he faced, it all echoed back to those narrow streets. The rooftop duels. The quiet hours training under Yip Man. The shame of being turned away. The pride of winning a dance championship. The pressure of being the son of a star, and the desire to shine on his own. Even his film work, those early black and white Cantonese dramas, gave him a head start few martial artists ever had. He knew how to move for the camera, how to sell emotion, how to command attention with silence. Hollywood didn't give Bruce Lee charisma. Hong Kong did. Now, let's not forget, Bruce's early acting wasn't just cute child roles. He played troubled kids, tough kids, streetwise survivors. It was almost prophetic. He was acting out the life he was really living. And those films? They made him famous in Hong Kong before he ever threw a single punch on American soil. But ironically, when he got to the US, none of it mattered. In Seattle, where he first settled, no one cared that he had starred in 20 films. He was just a short Asian kid with an accent. He had to start over from zero. And that's the secret fuel in Bruce Lee's rise. He was used to being underestimated. It started in Hong Kong, when the Kung Fu elders said he didn't belong. It followed him to America, where casting directors said he'd never be a lead. But every time someone told Bruce no, he made his own yes. And how did he do it? Because he remembered. He remembered those street fights. He remembered that rejection. He remembered what it felt like to be told, "You're not Chinese enough. You're not good enough. You don't belong." But Bruce Lee never forgot where he came from. He never forgot Hong Kong. Even when he became a global icon? Even when he was rubbing shoulders with Steve McQueen and James Coburn? Even when the whole world finally listened to him? He still walked like a boy from Kowloon. Quick, sharp, watching, calculating. Because deep down, Bruce Lee was never trying to impress anyone. He was trying to prove something, to himself. That he could rise. That he could transcend. That he could turn pain into power. So when you see Bruce Lee on screen, don't just see the kicks. See the kid who trained with shadows under neon lights. See the boy who danced with passion and fought with purpose. See the teenager who defied centuries of tradition with one belief. That truth was more important than tradition. His Jeet Kune Do philosophy? It was born in the streets of Hong Kong. Born out of necessity, rebellion, curiosity. He once said, "All fixed set patterns are incapable of adaptability or pliability. The truth is outside of all fixed patterns." That wasn't a quote from a book. That was his life. His early life. Wrap up for 5,000-word total script. So now you know. The untold story of Bruce Lee's early life in Hong Kong isn't just about where he lived. It's about how he survived. How he struggled. How he questioned. And how he refused to be defined, by others, by systems, or by expectations. Before the legend? Before the icon? There was just a kid. A kid with fire in his eyes and a storm in his heart. That storm? It never stopped. It just learned to strike with precision. And that's the real story of Bruce Lee.